Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another round of Muslims Uncensored with me, Robert Carter, and also my dear colleague and senior editor here at Five Pillars, Roshan Mohammed Saleh. I actually know how to pronounce your name. I will get to what I mean there later on in the show, but we have a lot to talk about today. We normally start off the show with a little update about how we're doing, so I'll pass it on to you, Roshan. How are you feeling this week? You always like to give us the update about your thoughts and feelings.
My thoughts and reflections. And my,
your dicky hip. How are you feeling?
No. I'm all right, actually. I think for once we should dispense with that and get into it because we got a lot of juicy topics today.
We do. So let's dive straight on in. What's trending right now is interviews which have been conducted on Talk TV. In specific, Piers Morgan, who has basically conducted an interview with a Muslim Dr Abdul Wahid, and there was a number of things that were discussed on the show, but a lot of people, I think, were outraged and upset by the performance, and I'll detail why. The first thing that he was challenged on was his views on Palestine, Israel and Hamas, and Piers Morgan really went in hard on Abdul Wahid about his views on Hamas. Let's play out a clip it now and see exactly what took place.
But Doctor, what happened on October 7th wasn't a military intervention.
No.
It was a terror attack.
What we want as a military
And you don't even think it happened, do you?
What we want is a military intervention from Muslim armies to rescue a beleaguered people and replace an apartheid
Palestinian
system.
people have to be given the same human rights.
Would you do me the respect?
They have to be given. No, I will interrupt you. It's not your show. You don't just talk forever.
Well,
right?
What's the point of asking?
I'm going to tell you what I think about the
saying
Palestinian plight, which I've talked about many times. You've obviously missed it. I think they should be given the same human rights as everybody else.
Think that
and
for
particularly
75 years
the same rights of the
occupied?
Israelis. I think it's been a 75-year conflict with...
conflict.
Yes, a conflict. Yes, a conflict.
Where people...
So there's a glimpse. Piers Morgan in fine form asking the question, do you condemn Hamas, which he's become known for. There was also another aspect of the interview, which I think didn't go down well with many viewers, particularly Muslims, when Piers Morgan appeared to express what I would describe as anti-Islam views. I'll play out a clip it now just to give you a chance to refresh your memory, Roshan.
I believe in the Islamic system.
Would you like Sharia law in this country?
I would love,
yes or no?
I would love to see you want.
No, answer the question. Never mind what I want. What do you want?
I want to see the Islamic system re-established.
Would you like Sharia law in this country? Last time I'm going to ask.
If Sharia law means upholding family values, means looking after the poor,
means no gays, no feminists, i.e. women who get above themselves,
that's
right?
Caricature. No,
I know what Sharia law wants.
Why do so many women become Muslim these days? Why do
they
so
want to
many
be
women in the
oppressed?
West?
Is that what you're going to tell me?
No. Why do so many?
Because they want to be oppressed.
Women in the world become Muslim these days
because they want to be oppressed. Apparently, Piers Morgan knows what he's talking about in regards to Sharia, and apparently seems to suggest that Muslim women or women who convert to Islam may be doing it because they want to be oppressed. The backlash that was caused online as a result of these comments from Muslims actually forced Piers Morgan to issue a clarification the next day. I'll quickly play that out now before I come to you, Roshan.
Suggest for a moment that women who want to convert to Islam should do so for any other than perfectly good reasons. I have no problem with Islam as a religion or with Muslims. I have a problem, though, with people who endorse and support terrorism or who are blatantly homophobic or who are blatantly misogynist. Now, many people have since accused me of being, as I say, anti-Muslim, but I'm not. No one who watches this show could possibly reach that conclusion. Let me be crystal clear again. I'm anti-terrorists and I'm anti those who support terrorists.
He goes on to explain how he apparently doesn't have an issue with Islam or Muslims. He has an issue with terrorism, basically. Right. So, Roshan, first of all, let me get your reaction to this whole affair. How do you think it went down?
I mean, I think the Abdul Wahid interview, for the first 3 or 4 minutes, he did really well, made some great points. But then after that, Piers Morgan reverted to his haranguing, not letting him speak, putting words in his mouth. And it was a bit of a car crash after that. Not Abdul Wahid's fault, but it was just horrible to watch.
I think the maximum time he was giving him to answer each point that he was throwing at him was like 30 seconds, something like that.
Well, it was 6 seconds.
If that,
there was a bit where he said, will you let me speak? Piers Morgan says, yes. 6 seconds later, he interrupts. So that's how the interview went. And it was absolutely horrible. But I think think what was particularly nasty about this, I mean, I don't have no problem with Piers Morgan challenging Muslims, disagreeing with Muslims, asking very difficult questions, but he's trying to get the guy sacked. So that's what's really nasty. He was tagging in his employers, saying, do you know his terrorist views and all this kind of stuff. So he was clearly trying to, it was a setup, because Piers Morgan was sick the week before he had COVID, but he still did the show over Zoom, didn't he?
Yes.
From his home. Right. But he didn't do the Abdul Wahid interview over Zoom. That's because he wanted to be in the studio with him and he wanted to prepare for it, and he had an agenda, and that's to get the guy sacked and perhaps even get his Tahrir banned. So there's a really nasty streak to what he did, which makes me think that we shouldn't feed Piers Morgan's algorithms anymore, and we shouldn't cooperate with him.
Yeah, and the fact that Piers Morgan says he heads a show called Uncensored and he's against cancel culture. This is something which he's pushed, and he's ridden that algorithm wave, because cancel culture and critiquing cancel culture is a big thing now. And he's kind of positioned himself as this champion of free speech who allows all views to be shared, and he gives everyone a fair shake. Well, clearly that's not the case with this Muslim doctor who he literally gave no time to speak. He looked down on him as if he was like dirt at the bottom of his shoe. And for what reason? I would say that basically the doctor expressed mainstream Islamic views. He was condemned for that by Piers Morgan, and even his views on Palestine. Like, one of the things that he was being criticised for recently, the doctor I'm referring to, is his calls for armies from the Muslim world, like from Egypt, or Turkey, official legitimate armies, to enter into Gaza and to save people from being massacred in what is being described as a genocide. That seems understandable. Piers Morgan calls for regime change all the time. He's always okay with military forces going here, there and everywhere in the Muslim world.
He supported the Afghan war.
Exactly. But then when a Muslim does it, in order to save people from being genocided in Gaza, he has this issue with it and he starts slamming the guy.
I mean, Morgan's the biggest genocide denier, because he won't call 18,000 massacred in Palestine and Gaza, including 6,000 children, 5,000 women, etc., etc. He won't call that a genocide. If it was British people being killed, he'd call it a genocide, but not when Palestinians are killed. So he's literally the biggest massacre denier. But I don't know.
He supports Winston Churchill as well, who again was a guy who supported genocide and was an imperialist who, again, I think Winston Churchill actually killed people in Afghanistan, by the way. He served as a soldier there. So again, it's
I'm not sure about that, but he obviously bombed a lot of civilians and was happy doing it. I think Winston Churchill was one of the first guys to use chemical weapons. I think he ordered the chemical weapons on Iraq or something.
He expressed support for it, carpet bombing Iraq and stuff like that.
But I think we need to break down a few things about what Piers Morgan said. I mean, the Sharia law thing, for example. I mean, what Muslim would not want every single person in the United Kingdom to become a Muslim? I do, because it's a blessing. It's an amazing blessing. Like, we celebrate when people become Muslims. Obviously, we're not going to force it upon them, but what would we be unhappy if everyone in this country became Muslim? No, we'd be ecstatic about it. And Sharia law is God's law.
A Muslim who believes in Islam. Oh my goodness, this is like, I can't believe it.
I mean, Sharia law is a blessing, and obviously it's caricatured, like Piers Morgan caricatured it there about being about violence and oppressing women. But we know Sharia law is a very deep thing. I mean, it's like reducing Western civilization to, I don't know, the Spanish Inquisition or the Iraq War. It's just a tabloid tactic. But Sharia law is a very equitable law for Muslims and non-Muslims. It's harder to convict under Sharia law. It focuses on the good of society rather than the individual. So yes, I would like Sharia law for the UK, because it would be a blessing for the UK. It's the solution to the UK's problems.
And this is where Piers Morgan exposed himself for being a complete ignoramus on this issue, because Sharia, jihad, this is Islam. You can't have Islam without these concepts.
No.
That it's literally part and parcel of the whole package.
Yeah.
And these are concepts which are wide, and you could. It takes an entire lecture to explain what they are. It's not as simple as saying Sharia law is about hand chopping. That's what Sharia means.
Caricature.
Exactly. Yeah. Jihad means to kill the infidels or something like that, or is a incitement to violence. No, it's a huge concept which includes a vast variety of understandings and things. things. This is Islam. If you are a Muslim, you have to believe in these things, or you're not a Muslim. You know, you have to.
But if you went on his show, he wouldn't allow you to explain that. He'd cut you off after 6 seconds.
Exactly, because he's a
and then no one would be any the wiser.
Because he's a cancel culture warrior, and he's a total snowflake. He blocked me, by the way.
All right, good, congratulations. But you were a bit offended by that, weren't you? Because he hasn't blocked me yet.
I'm offended because
he retweeted me.
He retweeted Roshan, and he blocks me. I'm outraged by this.
Yeah.
How dare you, Piers Morgan? But he blocked me again because he's a total snowflake. I didn't insult the guy.
No,
I could have.
You just called him fat.
He's an easy target. I mean, if you just look at him and his chins. Do you know what I mean? It's like million.
You could have called him fat. You could have called like 3 chins, but you didn't do any of that.
I didn't do any of that, which I
God
might have done.
forbid whether we would do that.
I kept it professional, and I just called him out. I said, look, what you're saying is ridiculous. It's stupid. I didn't even put it in those words. I was really professional about it. I just called him out.
You're
for
always
it.
professional, Robert. Yes.
Yes. I was uncharacteristically
you would never
professional.
do anything bad.
I was uncharacteristically professional here, and he blocked me. And I can just assume because I have a powerful voice, and he scared me. That's why.
We're going to discover a tweet tomorrow, Robert's tweet, like, you fat.
A deleted tweet.
Yes. But you know, I think there's another thing that we should also break down, because one of the excuses that Morgan uses to cancel people and to cut them off is if they won't admit that Hamas are terrorists, if they won't admit that Hamas committed loads of atrocities, etc. Now he's at a bit of advantage with his guests here, because obviously there's a law against praising and glorifying Hamas, which means that Muslim guests and non-Muslim guests can't really speak freely about this subject. And obviously he's trying to trap them into saying something and then putting them in jail, etc., etc. But the fact remains, and this is just being completely objective here, that there is no proof of these widespread atrocities that are being claimed. The beheadings. Well, we know that the beheadings didn't happen. We know that the rapes, most likely didn't happen. We know that the babies weren't put into ovens and beheaded, etc., etc. There is some contention over whether Palestinian fighters killed so-called, civilians. Now, historically, Hamas's position is that all Israelis, because they serve in the army or the reservists, they're a legitimate target. Now, I'm not saying that's, I'm not supporting that. That's been their historical position. But the videos that I've seen do not show that at all. And I've seen all the worst videos. There are 1 or 2 videos that could show something that along those lines, but even those aren't clear. Maybe those need investigating. But the Israeli claims of systematic slaughter of civilians by Palestinian fighters, rapes, beheadings, etc., etc., there's no proof of that whatsoever. And we shouldn't be browbeaten into admitting that there is proof. And unfortunately, Muslims, including quite prominent Muslims and sincere Muslims, are actually admitting these atrocities when no proof exists. Just because a Zionist shouts loudly about it and an Israeli official talks loudly about it and it's repeated in the mainstream media, that don't mean it happened.
Yeah, it's. I must admit, I've noticed that Muslims going on, not just Piers Morgan's show, but other programs too, they seem to be struggling on how to address this issue. Like, for example, how do you answer the question of do you condemn Hamas? How do you respond to that, especially given the legal peril that it could put you in this country, the censorship which exists here in the UK? This isn't a country which allows free speech, quite frankly, and we've seen that from Palestine protesters who hold up the wrong placard at a protest and they get guided off in the back of a police van. So let me just ask you, Roshan, for your advice on this. How should we deal with this?
The way I answered it on a show I went on recently, which we'll get to, is I said, I can't answer that question because if I answer it in depth, I risk saying something that could land me in jail, and even if I'm not even supporting it, because I've, as I explained in that show, I've been to Gaza and I have met Hamas officials, and I've also read very deeply about Hamas and its history. I've got a lot to say about the issue, and my views
as a journalist, as an expert,
and my views are actually quite nuanced, but I can't express those views because if I talk freely about it, the good and the bad, then I might say something wrong. Something might be taken out of context, amplified on social media, and then the old bill's coming around to my house and I'm in jail. So the way I answer it is that, we can't speak about this freely, so let's move on. But all I would say is that I think that it was a mistake to put Hamas on the prescribed list. There are Most countries in the world do not recognize them as terrorists, and it impinges on us having a free debate about who they are and talking about the good things they do, the bad things they do, etc., etc. There's no concept of a free debate around that because of the censorship that exists.
And I think one thing that I will advise everyone to take from this as well is that we shouldn't, as Muslims, allow someone like Piers Morgan to look down their noses at us because of our religious beliefs as well. So there's two aspects of this religion. You've tackled the one side very well on how to deal with the political situation of supporting the Palestinian cause, but also as well, Piers Morgan blatantly expressed criticism of Islam, and he slammed Islam, and he was attacking the doctor for believing in Islam. We can't allow this to happen. We are proud of our faith, for a good reason. It is from the creator of the universe. It's a beautiful religion. It's a winning formula on how to live your life, and we see that. That's why Islam's growing at a rapid pace and is well on course to being the biggest religion in the world.
It already is.
It probably already is.
Because Christians don't practice their faith, do they? So.
Absolutely, and even Westerners are in large numbers converting to the faith, including women, and there's a reason for that. And it's not because they want to be oppressed, like Piers Morgan put it. It's because it's a beautiful religion which protects their honor, it lifts their status, it gives them worth and value, and protects them from disgusting treatment by men, which is an issue in the West, by the way. If you look at the statistics around harassment and things of women, sexual harassment, it doesn't exist in many Muslim majority countries. It's practically zero. But here in the West, it's epidemic. Literally women getting harassed every single day as they walk to work, on public transport, even at work they're getting harassed. And it's because this society doesn't protect women. Islam does. This is a fantastic religion, and we shouldn't apologize. We shouldn't feel sorry for it, and we shouldn't allow anyone to look down their noses at us, because we are in the right here. We have power. We have power.
Can I ask you a question, Robert?
Yes.
Should Muslims continue to go on Piers Morgan?
That's a good question. I've been blocked, so I will answer no, which is a principled
you're not
position.
going on anyway,
yeah, he doesn't want me on, so no one should go on.
Yeah.
I think now we have to ask this question seriously. The audience have to give us their feedback.
Yeah.
I think we now maybe shouldn't, simply because of the way the doctor was treated. And come on, he's going to treat every Muslim that goes on there like that. And if you're just going to attack Muslims and try and get them sacked from their job, I mean, what is the point in going on? Just to him to ridicule our religion and attack us personally? I don't see a point in that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we've had enough of Piers Morgan now. I think enough Muslims have been on, and I think the needle shifted. I think there were arguments on both sides. There's always been a lot of people against going on, but there's also been a lot of people said, look, he's got a massive platform, you can talk about Islam. Even Islam I see is actually trending on social media now, maybe because of Dr Abdul Wahid's appearance. So there are arguments for going on, but I think the needle has shifted now. I think the community now has had enough of it. A few days ago, if I was invited, I probably would have, despite all my reservations, I probably still would have gone on. If I'm invited on now, I don't think I would. But if I did go, or any other Muslim, I think they should insist on one-on-one, no other panelists, one-on-one in the studio, because that's the only way you can have like equality of arms. But overall, I don't know what the audience thinks. Put it in the comments. What do you think? Should we go on?
That's a very good point that you raise.
Can I, before we move on, I think we're moving on now. Sorry, it's your show, not mine. So Twitter, because obviously Piers Morgan's retweeted me, which is not an honour. I don't care if he retweets me or not. I wasn't even going to respond to him, but he kept on retweeting me, so I did have a bit of a.
You're just rubbing it in now. He's blocked me and retweeted you.
Yeah, but obviously I dared him to tag my employer in, and to rat on me to my employer, who my employer happens to be Roshan Rob. So what I want to know, so I told him basically my employer has given me a pay rise and has given me a promotion. So now I'm no longer chief editor of Five Pillars. I am the supreme leader of Five Pillars. And I'm doubling my salary from 1 million a year to 2 million a year, with your permission, because obviously Muslims, you fund me. So should I get a pay rise, and can I take £1 million, please?
That sounds, for the work you do, you deserve it, Roshan. Yeah, I'm not going to fire any shots there.
I deserve 10 million.
Yeah, come on. the Ummah has the resources. Let's put it where it deserves to be, in Roshan's pocket. Let's see. There is actually something else you did well this week, I think.
Right. Oh, yeah,
Let's react to that before we move on.
Okay.
So another big Muslim appearance in the media, again on Talk TV. This time it was our beloved leader at Five Pillars, Roshan Mohammed's Salif.
Yes, Salif.
I think it's Salif.
Roshan Mohammed Salif.
As he was introduced on Talk TV, the presenter this time was Mr. James Whale, and he co-hosts. He has a co-host as well.
James Beach Whale.
It's like land whale, James the land whale, and his homeless-looking co-presenter. I don't know what his name is.
Ash Gould.
They interviewed Roshan. Let's play out a clip now and see exactly how it went down, because Roshan's performance was unique, I have to say.
And we're now going to talk to pro-Palestinian marcher, who's Roshan Mohammed Salif, I think. Is that correct, Roshan?
Salih, isn't it?
Not really, James. Salih, but close enough.
I can't even say my own name very well, I have to say. OK, so I got Roshan right, did I?
Yeah, close enough.
Thank you, William. We'll do it again. I can only speak in my own way, if you know what I mean.
It's Roshan.
Roshan. Roshan. Fine. That's a fine. Roshan. Good. As soon as I get somebody one side and the other together, you can't answer any of the questions on the other side. You know, I'm asking you what the solution is. You go off in some kind of strange way. What is the solution?
The solution is for Israel to leave the land, hand it back to the Palestinians, the rightful owners, and all the settlers to go back to Europe and everywhere else where they came from.
Well, the Arab lands, 55% came from the Arab lands. They're not going to get welcomed to Yemen and Egypt.
Why didn't Hamas give back the hostages?
Right, I've had enough of this. I've had enough
now.
I've had enough. I'm not listening to it anymore.
I'll answer that question directly.
Don't bother.
And what will happen is...
You're not interested in the answer, are you?
No, not because you'll just give some other
just
be quiet. You are disgusting me that you come on to talk about a serious subject and you laugh in that smug way. You disgust me. Goodbye. Don't come on the show again, even if somebody mistakenly invites you. Tony in Bristol, you're on the air. I can't stand that. I'm really angry. I'm trying to find a solution. The solution
there's so much more pearls of wisdom we could have taken from this performance.
11 minutes of total chaos.
Yeah, we have to leave it there. But you tell us about your experience, because obviously you was on there. He couldn't even pronounce your name. He didn't know what Five Pillars was at the beginning. So straight away he insulted you, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've cussed Piers Morgan for the first half of the show, but at the end of the day, he is an intelligent man. He is a heavyweight journalist, very famous, a lot of experience. Whereas these guys, it's literally Dumb and Dumber. They are literally the Chuckle Brothers. It's Bill and Ben, the Flower Pot Men. And they've got this irrelevant wag who helps them as well. I think her name's Lizzie Cundy, Jason Cundy's ex-wife.
Yeah, why was she there, by the way?
She's just, I don't know, like just a bit of furniture or something like that, yeah. So basically it's James Whale, this kind of bald, ignorant man who's just very shouty and cuts everyone off, and is a complete snowflake. If you disagree with his opinions, he just cuts you off and gets rid of you. You got this homeless guy next to him, basically this straggler from the street, and who's just completely irrelevant, and who James Whale really treats like absolute dirt. Just says, be quiet, be quiet. And he's really rude to this guy, you know. I mean, he's rude to me, he's rude to his guests, but he's really rude to his sidekick. And then you get this irrelevant something which begins with a B, but I won't say it. Blonde, whatever. I wasn't going to say blonde. And and I don't know what.
There's a few B words.
Is she the token woman or something on the show? But I really don't see the purpose of her existence, quite frankly. But anyway, it was 11 minutes of total chaos. Obviously, coming from living in the Northwest earlier on in my life, I know James well. He was a radio DJ up there. I used to listen to him. He was just as rude then. He used to kind of get rid of Scousers. He used to take the mick out of Scousers. And then when the Scousers came on to insult him, he would just get rid of them. And that's what he became famous for. So he's been rude out his whole life. So I wasn't treating the interview very seriously. I was treating it with the contempt that it was deserved. I got cut off loads of times, muted. They wouldn't let me speak, but I got a few blows in. I made them angry, and it was worthwhile just for annoying them, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And sorry, before you could butt in, the control room was really rude to me as well, because the control room behind the scenes, right at the end, when they cut me off, I didn't realise I'd been cut off. And a lady, I use that term very loosely, lady, a female in the control room said something like, "Get lost, you liar." And then before I could respond, cut me off the Zoom, booted me off Zoom. So that was my wonderful experience with Talk TV.
I must admit, it's one for the history books. I mean, it's definitely the most hilarious interview I've seen. And it's like you said, the guy's not a serious journalist. It wasn't a serious discussion on the issue. So the best thing to do in that situation, I think, is just to make light of them, just to mock them. But you actually did well, because just there, you literally said, like, they kept asking you, what is the solution here? And you just said it plain and simple. Israel, just
settlers leave.
Just get
and they're
them
all settlers.
off the land.
They're all settlers.
Get them off Arab land. End the colonialist project in Israel. And the second you said that, they were like, right, I've heard enough here. Shut it down.
When I say settlers, I don't mean the settlers in East Jerusalem or the West Bank. I mean all the settlers in Israel. They're all settlers.
Well, that would be a quick fix, quite frankly, because I mean, they keep saying about, oh, we have to basically they wanted Palestinians to appease and surrender, basically. That's the solution, and this two-state solution business has never worked. It's literally a time-wasting strategy as Israel continues to expand, take over more land. So quite frankly, he wanted an answer to your question. They kept accusing you of not answering the question, and you literally answered it the most clearest way you possibly can.
I don't want 1 minute, just give me 20 seconds. Just give me 20 seconds. That's all I asked for, 20 seconds. I'll answer your question. Nope.
Well, I have to say, I think that was a good performance. Again, we're always happy to hear feedback. I think that you handled it very, very well. And again, you answered everything as it should be.
But, you know, literally it's Dumb and Dumber. It's not, I mean, some people were comparing, I think you were comparing my interview with, you know, Dr. Abdul Wahid's interview, but you can't compare it because, as I say, Piers Morgan, he's a very competent and experienced interviewer. These guys are literally, you know, they're literally Dumb and Dumber. Chuckle Brothers, so I don't give myself too much credit for handling them.
Well, there is someone else who's having to handle a massive backlash at the moment. It's the leader of the opposition Labour Party, Sir Kier Starmer, who has been heavily criticised for his comments on Israel's aggression against Gaza. He said something during an LBC interview which literally offended, I think, everyone who listened to it. He basically supported a medieval-style total siege of Gaza, which would include basically starving them into submission, denying them food, water, aid, everything. Among other things, he refuses to back a ceasefire. He's declared himself a staunch supporter of Zionism and a Zionist himself in the past. But in a recent visit to Scotland, he was confronted by some local Scots. Let's play out the clip now and give everyone a taste of what happened there.
Here, how many more children in Palestine have to die before you call for a ceasefire? Over 7,000 children have died. Over 7,000 children have been slaughtered by Israel. This is unacceptable. So what happened to human rights? What happened to democracy? We call for peace, we call for democracy. We don't see any of that when it comes to the Palestinians. 7,000 children, how many more have to die? 20,000 people, how many more people have to die? This is unacceptable. Where is your humanity? Sir, where is your humanity? Please don't touch me. Please do not touch me. I'm not doing anything wrong. Okay, I'm not doing anything wrong. This is I've paid for a ticket. I'm on the train.
So that was just that was the initial confrontation on the train, and then as he arrived to his destination in Scotland to attend a fundraising event there for Labour
for the IDF,
could be, you never know where the money's going. But he was actually confronted again as he left the train, as he approached the venue for the fundraiser. Again, I think he was confronted. So the Scots came out in good numbers. Police pursued two activists.
Oh, did they?
That's the latest update from this story. So some charge. I'll have to double check what it is. I think disturbance of the peace, something like that. But yeah, some activists were pursued by police for that. So give me your reaction, Roshan. What do you think about all this?
Well, the brother was very persistent, right? He did a few of those videos. He not only got him on the train, but he got him outside as well. I mean, it's just, it's a reaction. I mean, obviously, it's very difficult to have a direct conversation with officials in this country. And Keir Starmer is someone who's supporting genocide. You know, these are exceptional times. It's not as if it's just a difference of opinion over Brexit or water rates or something. This guy is literally supporting a genocide, the massacre of our brothers and sisters in Palestine. This is a historical seminal moment. So it doesn't surprise me at all that, people are peacefully going up to him and challenging his views, because what other way is there of challenging his views? We don't get access to him on the media. He's never going to come on Muslim media, is he? He's never going to answer our letters. We're never going to have to debate him or challenge him. So I guess when we see him in public, we're going to have to put a camera in his face, obviously in a peaceful way. So I think it doesn't surprise me. But I think the wider lesson, I'm glad that he got challenged. I'm glad that he felt the heat, because as far as I'm concerned, he's not feeling the heat at all. Otherwise, he'd have a conscience and he'd change policy. So I'm glad it happened. And the wider lesson, of course, is that Muslims need to not support Labour, rather, abandon Labour at the next election, make sure all those Labour MPs that support this genocide are kicked out.
I don't know if I agree with you about not feeling the heat. I think internally there's signs that Labour are actually panicking a little bit.
Do you think so? All right.
I think so, because there was a by-election in East London, a local council by-election, which Labour lost quite recently, and that was credited with the position on Palestine that they've taken, the lack of support for a ceasefire. So an independent Muslim candidate who is calling for a ceasefire actually won there. There's also been a massive protest movement in Muslim strong areas where Labour historically have always had, it's like a strong foothold in those areas, in East London, in Birmingham and elsewhere. So I think Labour are in a bit of trouble here. They've really, really damaged their image in the British Muslim community to an unprecedented extent. I've never seen widespread disdain at Labour from British Muslims on this issue. As you have said before, Palestine is a red line issue for Muslims. We've made that very, very clear in the past. And Labour is not only in what I think is an unprecedented stance in support of Israel, but they're actually now supporting Israel as it conducts a genocide in Gaza. This is like
even if I don't know whether you've seen, Robert, Roshan Ali and even Kier Starmer come out with ridiculous statements about how they're working towards a ceasefire. So basically, by their twisted logic, they're calling for a ceasefire by not calling for a ceasefire. I mean, it's ridiculous. But to be honest, even if they call for a ceasefire tomorrow, that is not enough. That does not redeem them in the eyes of the Muslim public. It's too late. It's 20,000 dead people, dead Palestinians, 6,000 dead children. Too late.
Absolutely, and I just wonder if Labour's going to really suffer in the next election as a result of this.
Inshallah, I hope they're all booted out. Toxic party, disgusting people, disgusting party. I mean, I'm not a Muslim scholar, but if we could get a fatwa to say that it's haram to vote for them, then I'd love that. I'd love it.
It will be interesting to see how this manifests, because right now there are massive questions in the Muslim community. People are asking, what is our strategy? So we're protesting against Labour. We all agree that Labour has crossed a red line here and that we want to boycott Labour. But what do we do? Do we vote for independent candidates? Do we put up? Do we like tactically vote against them, which means that we potentially vote for? I don't know, the Conservative in some cases, or the Green Party in other cases, or do we have some kind of new party that we set up, like a Muslim party?
We have to think these things through, Robert, but the end goal, and I'm a practical, realistic man, I'm open to all kinds of tactics, but the end goal has to be to take Labour down.
Well, I think that's a strong one to end on. We have plenty to discuss, so let's move on to the next one. It's over in Israel, over in occupied Palestine, rather, where Israel is conducting more crimes against humanity. The latest example that I can bring up is that they're attacking the Jenin refugee camp again. There's been a number of casualties reported. I think the number currently stands at least 7 Palestinians killed as they basically lay siege to it. According to reports, they're denying aid access to the area whilst they're conducting this attack on a refugee camp. Can you believe it? Not only are they trying to make all Palestinians refugees by forcing them out of their homes, but even a refugee camp, an already established refugee camp, they're attacking that as well. And it just looks as if it's going to get worse. I think they've been attacking it for about 2 days now, and this is the latest in a long string of attacks on this refugee camp. And it's part of a wider attack on the West Bank, which they've been conducting following October the 7th, where Hamas doesn't even have a presence there. And of course, Gaza remains under attack as well. So the situation is terrible. The latest images we saw from Gaza is that they captured and stripped down dozens of Palestinians, which it later turned out included doctors and journalists. You know, the situation is getting more horrific. I don't know how it can, but it is. Roshan, give me a reaction to what's going on.
Yeah, just really briefly. I mean, on the images that we saw of the Palestinian civilians stripped naked, I think even Israel has admitted that only 10% of them were terrorists, as they say. I mean, if they say 10% were terrorists, that probably means none of them were terrorists. But every Palestinian prisoner will have a tale to tell about being stripped naked in Israeli jails and made to stand, you know, stark naked, men and women, because the Israelis, they love to humiliate, you know, and they know that Arabs and Muslims, we have shame about naked bodies. So this is a deliberate tactic. And they were saying, no, these people are bad people. But, or even if they were bad people, why film them naked in their underpants like that? It's all about humiliation, you know, and spreading the humiliation. So Israel, they're cruel people, you know, the Israelis are very, very, very cruel. And they want to humiliate Muslims and Arabs in this absolute disgusting way. Two other things I would briefly say is that obviously the UN General Assembly vote last night. We're recording this on Wednesday. I think it's going out today, but if it isn't, then that was on Tuesday night. So basically, the vast majority of the world has voted for an immediate ceasefire. Of course, there are these, you know, rogue regimes like the UK and the US who've basically voted against the ceasefire or abstained. It's obvious now that the UK and the US are internationally isolated. These two rogue regimes supporting a genocidal regime are completely internationally, kind of isolated. So I think, brothers and sisters, we should know that as well, that our view that we are expressing is the majority view by far in the world, and the minority view is the view of people like Keir Starmer. And the last thing I would say is that I do think the window is closing now. Joe Biden is at last saying things like, you know, Israel is killing too many civilians. They're losing world support. I mean, of course, they lost it a long time ago. But when the American president starts speaking like this, I think it probably means that Israel now has a few weeks to kill as many Palestinians as possible before this war probably comes to an end.
We have to keep praying. That's the best we can do, is pray for the Palestinians, because yes, as you rightly say, the window might be closing, and as we know from how the Israeli regime has conducted itself in the past, when it knows that it only has limited time left to keep bombing the heck out of people, it'll just go in hard and bomb and carpet bomb and just start killing indiscriminately as much as they can. You know, this is the nature of that regime. So,
but alhamdulillah, their true ugly face has been revealed to the world. I mean, you and me knew it always, but those people who are on the fence now, or the Muslims that weren't interested in this area, or the non-Muslims as well, they know what Israel is now. They know. And you can never unsee that ugly, hideous face.
And subhanAllah, there was actually an article written by The Guardian that suggested that many non-Muslims are learning about Islam because they see the bravery and in the Palestinians as they're being literally annihilated and their family members are getting massacred in Gaza, the fact that they still hold on to any hope, and it's because they have Islam. It's because they love Allah and they know Allah is with them, and they know that this life is hard, but it's temporary, and that they are on course to go to paradise, and all of the innocent people that are slain there go straight to paradise. And people are like, wow, like how are these people able to keep going amid this genocide, amid this evil that they're facing, this unimaginable horror that they face day to day, and yet they're still smiling. They're still
thanking Allah.
Yeah, they're literally, they're happy, and they're crying tears, but you know, they're still able to get through the day and be good people, and it's because of Islam. And subhanAllah, there are actually people in the West now that are looking into the Quran, reading it and trying to learn about it, simply because they've seen how the Palestinians are acting. I mean, subhanAllah,
may millions of people convert to Islam and find our beautiful religion as a result of witnessing the steadfastness of the Palestinians.
Inshallah. Allah is the greatest of planners, and you know, you can plan your evil deeds here in this world and do whatever it is that you want to do, kill as many Muslims as you want, but Allah is the most powerful. He's the mighty one, and he has the greatest of planners, subhanallah. So let's now move to final topic of the day. It's actually a win for the Muslims, I'm happy to say. It's a win for the Muslims, a rare win, but a win nonetheless. Over in Denmark, a new law has been introduced, which will essentially outlaw desecrations of holy texts going forward, and it's basically been referred to locally as the Quran law, and everyone basically is seeing it as following a spat of Quran desecrations that Denmark has become known for. This law is trying to stop that from happening, and it comes after a huge protest movement was sparked across the Muslim world condemning this act. I think it was at the beginning of this year, and even at the end of last year, when these desecrations were taking place. So alhamdulillah, the Muslims appear to have won here. We forced a change to protect our holy text. What do you make of it, Roshan? Yeah, I mean, I'll just do very brief comments because you're the actual expert on Scandinavia. You're of Scandinavian descent, basically. You're a Viking, aren't you? Yeah, Viking, so I'll let you conclude with comments which will be more detailed than mine. But all I would say is that, alhamdulillah, all our protests, they've worked. Obviously Denmark have not done this out of the goodness of their hearts. They've done it because of the protest movement. They've done it because of the diplomatic pressure. For once, the Muslim world got their act together. All those countries which are now allowing this genocide to happen actually did something, and they boycotted diplomatically, etc., etc. It's another point. I've got to go back to Palestine. After 2 months of slaughter, not one Muslim country that has relations with this Zionist entity. They should never have had those relations in the first place, but not one of them, including Turkey, have broken off relations. Anyway, getting back to the Denmark thing, the Muslim nations did take some action, put some severe diplomatic pressure on. Obviously, Turkey used its kind of NATO leverage as well against Denmark and Sweden. So I think that it's a win, alhamdulillah. And let's hope that these Quran burners, I pray that Allah punishes them. I think we can pray for their punishment and they get what they deserve in the afterlife. Yes, for sure. In the afterlife. Well, one thing I will say is that, yes, you're right. It's testament to the power that the Muslim world has when we get our act together and we unite behind one central issue. I think that you are right as well in saying that Denmark didn't do it out of the kindness of their own hearts. In fact, the main reason they're quoting for this law change is because of national security threats. So basically what they're saying is that barbaric Muslims might attack them, therefore they've decided to... That's not the real reason, I don't think. Exactly. I mean, ideally they should have admitted, okay, we have a severe problem with far-right hate speech in this country, Muslims are being targeted indiscriminately, and this is an area where we can improve on. That's what they should have said. They should have confessed. They should have said sorry. They should have said sorry. Yeah, sorry. Sorry. We're a bunch of idiots and we did the wrong thing. Absolutely. And like Sweden, for example, where it's still an issue, there's someone who's not from Sweden who has gone there and is basically conducting Quran desecrations on a regular basis, and who wants to get asylum. Exactly. But Swedish nationals who are Muslim have to put up with this, even though they're like hardworking Swedes and they pay their taxes and they're good, decent members of that society. So that Sweden has got this weird situation where they've allowed a foreigner basically to come in sight. Foreigners out. Well, here we go. I mean, they like to boot out Muslims all the time, even though they don't do anything wrong. But then when this guy comes in, they want to harbour him and protect him, even though he's literally causing riots in that country. And this is the real problem. This is the hypocrisy and the double standards of freedom of speech. The fact that they will arrest you for criticising a rainbow flag, but then if you literally burn a book, literature, like the Nazis did in Nazi Germany era, burning books, they somehow defend that as if it's a legitimate form of free speech. This is hate speech. These countries shouldn't be permitting it. And even this law change, we have to be careful because there are still some loopholes where desecrations may still take place. But things like you can't do it in public spaces and things like that. So it's not an outright ban. It's not like a blasphemy law that we would recognise. It's something, but it's something. And I think again we have to see see it as a win because we do have power as Muslims, but we have to unite, we have to mobilize together, and we have to, focus our boycotts, focus our campaigns in areas where we can actually make a massive difference. That's how we're going to do it. And I think coming to the UK, a boycott of Labour can work, but we have to do it in the right way, and we have to unite on this issue. And alhamdulillah, at least Palestine Muslims all agree that this is an area to focus on and unite on now.
Okay. Well, should we finish the show?
I think so.
Getting a bit boring now, isn't it? After your long monologue.
We've slammed everyone. We've spent plenty of time on Piers Morgan. Well, there we go, guys. You've heard it all here from Muslims Uncensored, a platform which genuinely is uncensored, and we do platform Muslims properly without shouting them down as they do on other uncensored programs.
How could it be uncensored when it's just you and me? Like, we never have any guests on, so that's just rubbish.
It's our show. It's our show.
I don't censor you don't censor me, so yeah.
Well, there you go, Piers Morgan. How do you
Muslims uncensored.
How about you unblock me, Piers, and come on this show and take us on in our territory?
Can I just say, if a non-Muslim came on the show and opposed our views, I'd shut him down straight away. I give him 1 second
block
to speak.
you immediately. Block you immediately. But what can I say? Thank you very much, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel immensely. And please do leave your comments in the comment section below, especially that feedback, because we do appreciate it as we continue to improve the show going forward, inshallah. From me and Roshan Mohammed Salif, or Salif, or
Roshan Mohammed Salif.
That's his new name now, the Supreme Leader of 5 Pillars. Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll catch you in the next episode next week, inshallah. But it's salam and ma salama for now.
Assalamu alaikum.